Some of the pens that I chose for the top pens of 2020 are my favorites. I've used them and I like them, and some of them are representative of what I think has been going on this year in the pen world. This is a fairly Asia-centric list as I live here in Asia and I have easier access to get these pens, but there are a few from outside of Asia. This inky dripping is inspired by Adventure Denali. I enjoy her laid-back reviews on ink and her unique perspective on stationery. One of the pens of last year's top pens was this one, except for in blue. It was called the Sirius, and I picked it because I thought last year we hit the peak of sparkly. And was I ever wrong? There was just sparkly everywhere, not just glitter, but different kinds of sparkly. This one is called the Universe. I got a little overwhelmed with the sparkly, so I picked this pen as one of the top pens of 2020. It's called Moonlit Cherry Blossoms, and it's a Sailor Pro gear. Only the cap is sparkly, which is about all I can handle right now, but it has a killer nib. It's got sakura on it and the moon hidden behind some clouds. It has a metal section because it's believed that it'll weigh the pen downwards or forward so that you can write more comfortably. It has what my friend Midai Cat says, white socks, which is a white end cap and finial. This is supposed to represent the milky white color of the moon. These ultra sparkly pens are put out by the pen doctor, which is Shishikuda-san. She works in conjunction with Sunrise Trading Company, and I'll put the links to all the pens in the description box. I'm also going to put the link to Fudefan's latest blog post. Besides summing up this year's pen trends, he also has a list of different Japanese pens that sell online and ways you can purchase these pens. It's super useful and you may want to check that out. The next pen was pretty controversial when it came out. It seemed like everybody either was looking forward to it or hated it. I'm including the Curidas in my top pens of 2020 because I felt like Platinum was stretching a bit and making a new kind of pen. I appreciate that, and I also enjoy my Curidas. I removed the clip and then snipped off the little nubbin that holds the clip, and then smoothed it out with a Dremel and Mylar paper. To get a better rundown on why I like this pen, I'll link to my review on in the upper right hand corner. I don't feel like this is a substitute for the Pilot capless, it's just an addition. It's a fun pen to fill and I enjoy it. I hope Platinum and also other companies will continue taking chances to make different kinds of pens. I feel like the whole world has gone urushi crazy. Case in point, Fudafan typically only likes black pens and black or blue-black ink, and he owns this disco ball pen. Urushi is Japanese lacquer, and the queen of urushi is Hiroko from Bokumondoh. She has lacquered everything from phone cases to motorcycle helmets to jewelry. Hiroko does the Tsugaru Nuri style of urushi. She moved to Aomori, which is in the northern end of Honshu Island, where they're famous for apples, to study this type of urushi. This is a handheld mirror. I'll be doing an interview of her once the pandemic is over. But she remains incredibly busy even this year, and it seems like all kinds of urushi is becoming more and more popular. So my next top pen is an Eboya Hakobune that has been urushied by Bokumondoh. It has a teal ishime finish that's been sprinkled with blue aluminum powder. It has rod-end on the section, the edge of the body, and the edge of the cap. It has a crushed white rod-end powder snowflake on the top of the cap. I think one of the reasons why urushi is so popular on pens is that it is a traditional Japanese craft, but it has been a craft for hundreds and hundreds of years, and many of the styles, even though they may be innovative, are quite classic. These are the kinds of pens that don't go in and out of style but remain appreciated like artwork. And Hiroko of Bokumondoh is a wonderful artist. There are some IG accounts that I follow that also do urushi work: Tamenuri Studio, Monopropia, Waterman Pink, and Urushi Studio India. I believe urushi will remain a staple for many people who collect fountain pens. I consider PenBBS the leader in Chinese pens for quality and value. They got feedback on the original model of the pen and then made the improved PenBBS 355. This is a draw filler or syringe filler or bulk filler type of filling system. It's basically a piston filler in which the piston can go all the way back to the top of the barrel, and then you push the rod in separately. To not belabor the pen, I'll just link to my review in the upper right hand corner. This is a relatively inexpensive pen with a fun filling system and a company that was responsive to its customers' needs. A top pen for 2020. This next dazzler is the Walltown Watts fountain pen. I'm so impressed with all the pen makers that I see on Instagram. I like supporting small businesses, but they have just really made some beautiful pens. I consider a lot of these pens another kind of sparkle in my sparkly arsenal, but I also love it because of the nib. Most of these pens hold a Jowo number 6 nib, and right now there's just a lot of nibmeisters and people grinding nibs that are experimenting on the Jowo number 6. So with one pen and one barrel of ink, I can change out all kinds of nibs. I can change the sizes from fine, medium, or a stub. I can stick in a flex or even a stacked nib. All these nibs are being sold on Instagram also. The Watts is with his buddies, the Esculus from Mythic Pens, the Idol from Scriptorium, and the Pink Diamond from Woodshed. Other than the Watts, I got these pens used and a couple of them without the nibs because it really doesn't matter. So for flexibility, usefulness, and beauty, you really can't beat these homemade pens. I also follow and admire Wet n Wise, Butter Knife Creations, Atelier Lusso, Herbert Pen Company, and Iron Feather Creative. And the two granddaddies of them all is Newton Pens and Edison Pens. They were both the first small companies that I had bought from and really enjoyed. Back about 9 or 10 years ago, before there were a lot of instructional YouTube videos, I watched a Newton Pens video called Nib Tie and Adjust. It was hilarious because you could hear his kids playing in the background, but it gave me the confidence to learn to adjust my own nibs. Small businesses are the best. Glass pens have really influenced both the fountain pen world and the ink world over here in Japan, so I need to include one of those. And I made it this Tooth ribbon pen, mainly because it's just so flashy and recognizable, but it functions a lot like a straight edge or a pilot parallel pen. These are still kind of hard to come by, but I'm hoping that other glass makers will pick up on this. Some of the big glass pen makers here in Japan are Hario, Hase Glass Studio, Paraglass, Kawanishi Glass, and Naokawa Glass. Since I use these pens a lot for messing around with ink, this is one of my top pens of 2020. Platinum had a couple of controversial pens this year, and the Shiun was definitely one of them. The price compared to other 3776s was jacked way up, and it was considerably more expensive outside of Japan than in Japan. I think about $120 more. There was some speculation that Platinum was trying to reclaim some of the aftermarket money that it lost out on. Used Rokas were selling for far more than the retail price. The price inspired intense discussions on what people should pay for a pen. I see now on Goulet pens they've backed down about $100 on the price. They've sold okay here in Japan, not as well as the Kunpo or the Roka. I like it because it's a 3776. It has concave facets, which copies a type of faceting from the gem world. And it's a different kind of sparkle than the other sparkly pens I have. Some people pay more for stars, and I pay a little more for sparkly. These two pens are a no-brainer. It's the two new sizes of Pilot Parallels. They're 3.0 and they're 4.5. The Pilot Parallel pens as a whole are awesome. I use mainly, looking at my pen box, Pilot Parallels and homemade Jowo No. 6 pens for all my ink testing. Here's the original set. A 1.5 I could just use a stub nib, and the 6.0 you can only get about 3 letters on a line in an A5 journal. So of these 4, I only use the 2.4 and the 3.8. So both of these pens are just slightly larger than the 2 sizes that I use a lot. So lately I've been trying to kill off my 6.0s. I've been putting all kinds of weird ink in there and thinking that maybe it'll clog it up, but these pens are indestructible. To be honest, these 2 pens will probably be my most used pens that I've purchased this year. I told you I like sparkly pens, and this pen is a different kind of sparkly. It's the TWSBI VAC700R Iris. I like the multicolor effect on this pen, and it contains several of my favorite colors, pink, purple, and blue. And also the VAC700R is a real improvement over the VAC700. I had broken my old one a long time ago and never got around to buying another one. It holds a large amount of ink, has an elegant long nib that is a smooth writer, and their fine nib is quite precise. And it has an interesting filling system that safely holds a large amount of ink. It doesn't quite sparkle, but it's pretty enough where I think it does. We'll take a short ad break, and when we come back, there are 2 pens that most people have probably never seen before. The Blue Dew is a stainless steel full flex nib pen. The maker dedicated this pen to his father, who had recently passed away, and the number 88 sounds like father in Mandarin. So the pen is $88 and $12 to ship, for a total of $100. It's a pretty enough pen. It's blue swirled acrylic, but the real killer is that it's the best buy for a flex pen, in my opinion. The nib has a big B on it and a kind of trident, and it's a gold-colored stainless steel nib. For someone who's just starting out on flex writing, you can purchase a Noodler's Ahab for $23 or a Nib Creeper for $16. But both of them you have to crank down pretty hard and your hand gets tired out pretty quickly. If you want to upgrade, you could try the Triple Tail Flex at $55, but still you gotta crank down pretty hard. Here I'm writing with it and I'm barely putting any pressure at all. It has a pretty fine point, so you can write very small with it. With bigger writing, you'd have to go a little bit slower. It's so soft that he warns you like 4 times in bold letters in his instruction page not to explore the limits of the flex. There are other steel flex nibs that I really like the Secretary of Deflex from Pen Realm. But if you're looking for your cheapest option for a full flex pen, this is your pen. You may want to try the cheaper Noodler's options first, and then if you like flex, then this pen might be your next step in your flex pen journey. I'm pretty sure this next pen can be used as a weapon. If you saw my Tokyo Pen Show video, you'll know that I didn't get this pen and really regretted it. After researching and finding the parent company, I was able to email them and purchase the pen. The parent company, Shiun, makes metal aircraft parts. They have a division called Neighbor Crafts that makes stainless steel, like lifestyle items. But look at this nib. It has a patent pending. All those grooves and channels hold an enormous amount of ink. This nib is made out of acid-resistant stainless steel, and the body is also stainless steel. It kind of reminds me of those monoliths that everybody has been spotting all over the world. This model you can only use one nib, but they have other models where you can screw in a nib on each end so you can have a two-nibbed dip pen. All the nibs they have are interchangeable. Right now they come in a 0.5 and a 0.8, but I've been watching their Twitter and it looks like they're designing different kinds of nibs. They assured me that all the nibs should be able to fit into all the pens. This pen is pretty heavy because it's stainless steel, but I'm sure very strong. But they've made a lighter version of this pen also that's made out of aluminum. This truly is a 0.5 nib. It's very fine. I've just dipped the pen once and started writing. When I was at their booth at the Tokyo International Pen Show, while I was talking to them, one of the guys dipped the pen into the ink and started making these lines down a piece of paper. So I thought I would do the same thing along with some curly cues to see how long I could go with only one dip of ink. Also, when I was at their table, I wasn't so sure I liked the way the pen wrote, and I think they didn't have very good ink there, because here I just love the way it writes. I'm using Sailor ink here, and it looks like I'm finally getting to a dry spot. Sometimes it helps to rotate the pen around to get different channels of the ink. Here's a close-up of the nib loaded with ink, and you can just write and write and write with it. They plan on having a website up in January, but until then you can go to their Neighbor Craftsman's website. On it they have their lifestyle goods like an incense burner and a really cool speaker made out of titanium for your iPhone. It's pretty wild looking. They also have pictures of their different styles of Drillog pens, and then you can click on a link to order the pen through a contact form. People use glass pens to test out inks easily, but it's hard to travel with, like say if you're going to go to a pen meet or a pen show. And those are the most likely places that you would want to have a dip pen to, say, test out a friend's ink or sample an ink that you want to buy. But with this Rambo dip pen, you can just throw it in your pocket and go. For as much as I crab about the Platinum Preppy, you'll be surprised that my next pen is the Platinum Plaisir 10th Anniversary Venus Belt. They all have the same section and nib. It's all interchangeable with the Plaisir, the Profante, and the Preppy. But if I'm not ink testing, the Plaisir is a fun and reliable pen that does not dry out. This one has a cool pink feed, and you actually have to pay less money for this pen outside of Japan. But this pen was so popular in Japan, it's all sold out. Hopefully they'll make some more available. I chose the Sailor Compass because I felt like it was a good starter package for someone just getting into fountain pens. The nib has this cute anchor on it, and the pen comes in all different kinds of colors, all of them demonstrators. At first I thought it was a little pricey at $39, but it comes with a converter and 2 cartridges. This is the only Sailor pen I can think of that is fun and relatively inexpensive. This pen is probably in competition with like the TWSBI Echo, the Pilot Prera, or maybe even the Platinum Plaisir, and it has a really cool looking clear feed. I had seen several bad reviews of this pen and I was worried about it, so I used Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukiyo ink. It's my go-to ink that always works in all pens. But I love the way it wrote. It comes in an MF, but it's pretty much an EF by Western standards. So you shouldn't get this pen unless you plan on writing small. Here I'm showing you how small you need to write in a notebook this size for it to work well. If you use a fine point ball pen, get a sample of ink and this kit and you pretty much will have all that you need to start out with a fountain pen. That's a pretty good starter package value for a smooth writing pen. This pen is called the Symphony because its foundation is in Gustav Mahler's Fifth Symphony. Every element of the design references elements within the symphony and the general style in Vienna at that time, Viennese Art Nouveau. This is the graduation masterpiece from goldsmithing school for Annabelle Hillar, the nib specialist at Appelbaum Pennen in Laren. The base of the pen is cellulose acetate. The overlay is 14 karat gold with 8 salt and pepper diamonds, 2 black diamonds, and 1 white diamond. The clip is sterling silver with a 24 karat inlay and 4 rubies. The finials are 14 karat gold. And the nib is 14 karat gold, completely made from scratch. Each of these diamonds represents a loved one of Mahler's that had passed away before he wrote the symphony. Annabelle is an Austrian who moved to the Netherlands to study harp at the conservatory in Amsterdam. She decided to follow a 4-year goldsmithing course to eventually make her own pens or nibs and to better understand nib work. Though there were many months designing the pen, actually making the pen was the most stressful 3 weeks of her life. She started building the pen in March and would have had 3 to 4 months to make it. But as we all know, 2020 threw us a curveball. The person who was supposed to turn the cellulose had to close their studio for the pandemic. Bobby, who is known as Wet and Wise on Instagram, was a lifesaver and stepped in and followed her technical drawings and instructions to a T. Materials were hard to come by during the pandemic, and the workshop she was supposed to use closed. When she finally adjusted for all the changes, she only had 3 weeks to make the pen. She could use the goldsmithing classroom before school closed. There were no students around, and she was often up late into the night sanding and setting stones. Though I empathize with her troubles and for the hardships that many others are going through now, what she turned out was a functioning symbol of making it through this year. It is a creation of beauty and grace. This inspirational and beautiful fountain pen can be seen at Appelbaum Pennen in Laren. Thank you for coming along with me on my pen journey this year, and I wish you the very best for 2021.